3-3 it ends. So yes, it does end that losing streak of 5 games behind them, but now it's 6 without a win. It's his worst run as coach. Those woes continue. City failing to win a match after holding a 3-goal lead for the first time in 35 years. City with a 6-game winless streak in all competitions, and Feyenoord are the first club to avoid defeat in a Champions League match after trailing 3-0 after 70 minutes. A lot to discuss here, particularly with what we know is behind City right now. Mario Melchiot is with us as well, but let me start with you, Craig, because this is a disaster for City right now.
Well, it's embarrassing. That's 17 goals. We're counting the goals every time we do. City, we did it at the weekend. That's 17 now in 6 games that they've given away. This wasn't a game until it was a game. And even when he makes some changes, the game is dead, really it is. And even when Feyenoord score 1 goal at 3-1, you know, experienced players, you know, won the Champions League, Premier League champions. You just take the sting out of the game, don't leave any spaces, don't make any more mistakes. 3-1, still not a drama. Players, elite level players don't panic when they're 3-0 up and a weaker team scores a goal to make it 3-1. They just don't, and they shouldn't panic at 3-2. But panic stations just set into this Manchester City side at the moment defensively. And dare I say it, I mentioned him again, Guardiola, who is a good player. He's a good player, but he's having a tough time, making a lot of mistakes. He made 2 in this game, 1 was glaring. He was involved in the second goal that they gave away. He made 2 bad mistakes at the weekend against Tottenham when they got walloped 4-0. They're playing Liverpool at Anfield on Sunday. The question now has to be asked about the manager. Does he leave some of these defensive players in the side? Does he put Ake to left back? Does he now have to leave Guardiola out because his confidence is shot to pieces? So these are the things we'll find out at the weekend. But what we do know at the moment, Feyenoord are 4th in the Dutch league, and I'm sure Mario Melchiot knows way more about them than me. But they're not the strongest side. But it just shows you that any team at the moment, any team of a reasonable standard can get at Manchester City. Currently, the way they are, they've got no chance of coming back in the Premier League, and they currently have, playing like this and defending like this, not a hope in hell of going all the way in this competition. And we wouldn't have said that 5 or 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, Mario, we wouldn't have expected to see this, as Craig's saying.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, when the game started, first, I think you watch the game, you see City players at home, right? So you expect them to do something. Okay, we know what happened over the weekend, but you still feel like, I don't feel like Craig said, it's not the same size. You're not watching, you know, Man United playing against a Liverpool at the moment. No, they're playing against a Feyenoord team from Holland, and normally, okay, you know, football in Holland is all about, you know, we want to play the game and control the game, play football. Okay, we have that. But then you play against the City side, it is normal for them to do the same job. But then what the key thing was, they go ahead then. You know, the first 15 minutes, they kind of started really strong because you could see Feyenoord struggling. But then, what is it? 70 minutes before the, you know, like they're playing 70 minutes, I think. And he substitutes 3 players. Brings on De Bruyne, Ake off, I think McAtee came on, De Bruyne came on, Gundogan came off. So when you do stuff like that, it's that you want to put a statement to your team, guys, we got it in control. Foden came off too. So you want to put a statement in the sense of like, okay, we know where we're going now. And then the 75 minutes, not even 5 minutes after he made that substitutions, and then you see what happened. They start crumbling. And one thing I want to say, that's very good. Feyenoord in Holland, they are known as a team with character. It's not always that they play the nicest football, but one thing they always possess, and they always had more than even my time when I'm playing in Amsterdam at Ajax. They had more character than us. So we knew that we had to be smarter than them, but one thing, if it became a match of a game, they will outrun us by just their will and their strength. And look at how far they took City, and I think that was just a big surprise for everybody, I think.
The changes are the changes, and you know that, I get that. But it wasn't the changes that caused Guardiola to lob a ball in no man's land that he did for the first goal. I don't know if he was trying to lob it to Akanji or he was trying to lob it back to Ederson, but in the end he lobbed it to nobody. It was so far up in the air, everybody was hesitant The Feyenoord player nipped in, got around the goalkeeper. So, and then again, he's got the ball at left back, tucked in a little bit. He's got an easy pass. There's a difficult pass into the middle, which is the one he picks, and the ball gets nicked 10 yards outside City's penalty box. Before you know it, so on the left-hand side, it's crossed in. They've lost another goal. So it's mistakes coming from international footballers. You know, he's an experienced Croatian international footballer. As I said, he's a very good player. That just begs more questions for the weekend. You know, what changes is he going to make? Yeah. Man City go to Liverpool now, and I'm sorry to go ahead a little bit, but Man City go to Liverpool now with two things in their mind, which I think they've never had before. And the manager will be losing sleep over it. We're going to go and try and win this game at Liverpool, but we might get absolutely battered. And they might. And I don't think they've ever been in that mindset before. I mean, they've gone places, they've played, they've maybe lost. They've lost at Arsenal. Last year, lost it, but it was tight. I think for the first time, he could be lying in bed, Guardiola, actually thinking, somebody's going to get 5 or 6 against us. I mean, that's where we are with him. Somebody's going to score 5 or 6. Thank God I've signed that new contract. You know what I mean? So it's maybe one of his toughest ever times. I don't know, but this is just not a good look.
I mean, Mario, do you see any signs that they can find their way out of this slump, particularly at the weekend?
You know what's hurting now? It's the confidence. Like Greg, like what he mentioned is that they are getting worried. But now I'm listening to, what Greg is saying. How many times have we been in a season that we thought that something like that would happen? Of a City side worrying about who they're going to face. And I totally agree with him, because now it's going to come to a point their confidence is gone. I saw Haaland. If you look after the first goal, the way Haaland, and I saw this prior to, they happened already before in the game, you just saw his shoulders drop and his head went down, and you know that's talking to his confidence. You don't want that to happen to any of your players in the team, because that means that it says something about how the moral is of the team if one of your key players drops his shoulders, in the sense of like, there we go again. And I think this is going to be very, very good. We're talking about a Liverpool side that has a new manager. They have players, you understand, they're knocking on doors. I mean, I'm sure, the Salah stuff we have talked about. So this is a team that you're going to face now, is very confident. And I know they have tomorrow still a game, but they're very confident. And you turn up like this, it's going to be a tough game over the weekend then.
Craig, you've just had you say on Guardiola, is there anybody else that you'd pick out for City in the negative sense, or is it not just down to individuals here at the moment?
Well, as you know, we're watching a couple of the games, and it's hard to tell, because the individual mistakes are sticking out like a sore thumb. But I don't know. Phil Foden's still struggling along. I mean, I know there was a nice clip of a good save in the highlights, but he's not playing as well. Jack Grealish came in. Got some game time tonight. He's not had a regular run of games. I don't think Gundogan's played as well. Young Rico Lewis has had to go in the middle. Haaland has, struggled a little bit, not in this game in particular. Obviously got a penalty, and that was a good goal. So it's mainly, I think everything is down a level or two in the general play, but the defending in particular. And I go back to this, when they won the Champions League a couple of years ago, their balance between trying to be this attractive, open side and doing the defensive aspect of it was pretty much perfect. At the moment, it's all over the place. So he's got a lot of thinking to do, and he's playing, at the moment, the best team in England at the weekend. And, even the games before, when this bad run all started, they had a narrow win against Southampton, 1-0. They had a narrow win against Wolves, 2-1, who I think were bottom of the league, or second bottom at the time. They had a relatively narrow win against Fulham, and if Adam Traore had his boots on, they would have lost that game at home at the Etihad. So the warning signs were there from Fulham to Wolves to Southampton, and then they started to get bit on the backside, and it's resulted in this 5-game losing streak, and it damn well could have been 6 at the end of this tonight. So huge weekend for him, way bigger than it is for Liverpool. But at the moment, I don't see a way of them defending and keeping a clean sheet. Mario? That's a big problem.
Yeah. You know what I feel like, like what Craig is highlighting. If you look at some of the games that they played, look at how the late runs come into them. Soon as they play against a team that has late runs into them. And I know we talked about the situation of the midfield, but look at the late runs. The way Spurs played against them over the weekend, and you see the way they scored their goals. It was like a lot of late runs coming in behind people's back. I mean, we know what happened to Stones in the situation where, Madison, was in the game. But just also in the Feyenoord game, it's as soon as the energy picked up and they started to really, Pixel came in and you had Musa. Those are the two wingers that Feyenoord plays with to create the speed and the danger for them. And I feel like City is very vulnerable when they get players that make late runs to them and they cannot hold in because the gaps are opening up, and I feel the energy in the middle is not there. They don't have the guys that really can, when they have the ball, everybody knows what they can do. But when you don't have the ball, I don't think City has a great answer to handle that situation.
Fitness depending, and I can't answer that question. I think at the weekend, and Walker and Stones and Diaz, were on the bench tonight. I know none of them have been brilliant this season, but I think he goes back to basics away at Anfield. I think he goes, Walker, Diaz, Akanji, Ake, just because they are more inclined to be naturally defensive minded. And then you've got Salah and Diaz and all these players that you're going to have to look after in that Liverpool front line. And I think maybe part of the attacking essence of the game has to go out the window at the weekend and say, listen guys, we need to defend. But I do agree wholeheartedly with Mario, is that you can even have those experienced players in there, but if you're not picking the runners up from the middle of the park and you're all over the place in the middle, there's not a lot you can do as a back line when you've got runners coming at you. So I don't know. He's not had this kind of problematic headache as bad as this since he first arrived at the football club, when he had to make all the changes, when it was all fresh and he had to build the team. He's had some ups and downs, but he's not had as many headaches as he has at the moment. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who see him as a coach who's managed with just money, which I don't think is the case. I think he's a brilliant, brilliant coach. But there's a lot of people out there now going to be looking at him. A lot of sceptical people are going to be looking at him and say, okay, solve this scenario by coaching and managing. And he's going to have to do that.